Now, ladies and gentlemen, we start off with the CISO panel, Embracing Failure, Moving from Cybersecurity Prevention to Resilience. This is, I'm sure, going to be of a lot of interest for all of you. And I would now like to request the chairperson and moderator to kindly come on stage. He is Mr. Navanithan M, CISO, Tata Play. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the stage, and a huge round of applause for Mr. Navanithan. Good afternoon, sir, and keep those applauses coming. Thank you, sir, for being here. Please take your seat, sir. Our speakers are indeed very, very interesting. Dr. Pallav Ganguly, Industry Chair, IEEE, ComSec. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the stage and take your seat. May I request Mr. Partha Sengupta, Vice President, Shared Service, ITC, to kindly come on stage and keep those applauses coming. Good afternoon, sir. We request you to take your seat on the dais. Mr. Sid Datta, Founder and CEO, Privaclave. May I request you to kindly come onto the stage and take your seat. And a round of applause for Mr. Sid Datta. Good afternoon, sir. Mr. Kaustav Deshmukh, Director Sales Enterprise Business, India Fortinet. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the stage and take your seat. Good afternoon to our moderator and speaker, our chairperson and moderator, and our speakers, and I hand over the session to you, sir.
Awesome. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The previous session, it was really impressing. I mean, really, we have to wonder. If we want to shoot a movie, really we have to go out, or within a room we can finish the movie. And as rightly Sid has mentioned, we are not sure whether really we need an actor, actress. We can create whichever way you wanted to have it, and then we can take it forward. It's an amazing session. Thank you so much for bringing. It is CISO, very interesting fact. Really, we wanted to have a discussion. Really, I'm looking forward along with you all. Like what are the key inputs where we can take it as a takeaway and then move on that. So before starting, really, I want to thank you, KK sir, as well as the entire AVP INFOCOM team for having me here and then making this thing happen in a the powerful way. See, moreover, most of the organization, it's not about only the IT, right? It's any organizations. Maybe if you take into any home also, if you take it up, the people are always think about it. If anything goes wrong, how we can take it forward in the later stage. And if you take any organizations, how we can correct it. If anything comes, we can look on this later stage. For example, the 2021, you know that, right? The canonical pipe in US, in the west regions, complete west regions, where there is a gas and then as well as a diesel and then petrol where they are pumping across this entire west regions. And they never thought, of course, right, it's a human psychologist, if there is a break in the pipe, what will happen? It's like, more than thousands of kilometers it is traveling. If any one pipe break, what will be the challenges it's going to happen? They thought, of course, where we have a local support system, anything comes and then, we should be able to take it forward. And then if anything goes wrong, like in terms of the flow, what we can do is just I have an alternate line where I can, get things done. So all the time just they have in terms of the backup, like if anything goes wrong, how we can, but they never thought in a holistic way as a whole organization got stuck, how we are going to land up. So that's why if you see this 2021, it's a ransomware attack, it has happened, and it's like a very simple VPN account, it got compromised, and then from there they were able to penetrate to the entire ecosystem, they haul the entire stuff, and we are not sure how the systems, and then hackers are navigating to the entire area. Though themselves they shut down the entire the piping of the gas line. So it's not well prepared, right? Of course, even though they have a lot of a BCP plan, it's not well prepared, and then really they wanted to start from where actually. So that's what is the current world also. So really we wanted to move from preventions to the resilience. Like the preventions alone, it doesn't help. Really we wanted to focus on how we can take care of the resilience, and then how we want to ensure the business, if anything goes wrong, how we take it off the business reputation at the same time in terms of the running operations on the successful way. So with this note, really, I want to take the interesting story as well as the learnings from this each leader. And Partha, just really I wanted to start with you. I mean, since you hold ITC as well as, as well as it's a rich experience on this domain, as a majority of us, what's happening, why this critical organizations alone looking for this shifting from preventions to the resilience? Or maybe do you think it's like most of the organizations, they are looking from, moving from preventions to the resilience area? Just I need the both aspects as well as your insights. Over to you, Bata.
Great question. And before I start, I would like to tell it's a very daunting task. After Mr. Yunus Bukhari gave this such a splendid presentation and all, and we're going to discuss on cybersecurity, and the audience is going to hear to us. It's a very daunting task. I don't know how much justice we'll be able to do. We're going to give it a try. So the great question is that how do you move from prevention to resilience? What is the need of doing so? And all of us who has been there in the IT industry and all, we have been hearing the words like a ransomware, we've been hearing the spam mails, etc., who have been disrupting our IT services and all. It has gone far beyond that. Now, in today's life, we are facing issues like a lot of insider threats. Insider threats are like from the people like insider, hostile people, structured people, their skilled people and all are imposing a lot of threat to our internal organization. We are today not as an independent organization. We are also can get disrupted by our supply chain ecosystem. These risks are continuously evolving. Number two, there is one fact which is important, which should be there in our mind. Inevitability of breaches. It is going to happen. It is either it has happened with us, we don't know, or it's going to happen with us, and it's happening with us. So breaches are inevitable. So what these two facts leads to? This leads to, as an organization, all of us needs to have an IT continuity or a business continuity planning. Moreover, people are not interested in IT continuity. Business is interested in their business continuity. IT continuity as a subset to that process. How do you run business? So, on top of it, there is a regulatory framework, increasing regulation which is coming to the industry. The SEBI has got a regulation, as a listed company, you've got LODR obligation which is there for each and every corporate who are here present. Fourth thing which is coming, okay, what is one more very critical thing? What we need in the event of something collapses. What is critical part of the business for which I need to get funding? We have to do a discussion with our stakeholder. Is that these are the three things without which you will not be able to operate in the market. This is how your market reputation, your business continuity is going to work. Discuss and then we can get the fund from there. And one breach happens, we should be adaptable to this. Adaptability is a key, and we should get whatever is happening around that landscape, we should learn from there and prepare that. Hence, it is not only prevention and detection, it is a resiliency which is going to give us this outcome.
Awesome, amazing, but I think you touched this wider aspects, right? Now the current trends, what is happening, and it's maybe the AML or in terms of the cloud technologies or in terms of the API, which is going in the bigger way. And you touched, of course, a couple of points in terms of the third-party risk at the same time on the data exfiltration, so specifically which is happening in the insider threats also. Maybe since Sid is from the technology background, really, Sid, just I would like to hear from you. It's like a multiple way of the data exfiltrations, right? If you want to the data movement, maybe as an organization, CIO and CISO, we look as a holistic view, like internal to external and external to internal, like how this data handling and the data movement it is happening. So really love to hear from you, like from the attacker standpoint, it's maybe the MITRE attack or maybe the kill chain mechanisms. What are the way this data exfiltrations may happen? Because nowadays, if you see, it's where we have a lot of zero trust architectures, which is coming to it's not so easy to take out the data, from the core, the database to the outside. So love to hear your inputs, specifically from the technical standpoint, what are the methods where we have the data exfiltrations, and similarly since we have a zero trust architectures, on top of that, how the data is going out, by having a lot of ransomware and then, other threat actors playing significant role.
That's a loaded question, so I'm trying to decipher it into multiple pieces. But lead in from what Partha mentioned about the inevitability of the breaches. I think many years back, one of the veteran security professional I met, he told me, said there are two types of enterprises. One who has been breached and the other who doesn't know about it. So I think it's something that we'll have to come to terms that, data is probably breached, and particularly leaning onto the Zero Trust framework, the creator of Zero Trust, John Kindervag, he talks about that, assume there is already an attacker inside your network and kind of build it out from that, inside out. So the part where it comes to data exfiltration, obviously there's multiple ways, and I typically use one of the classic examples of data breaches, and one of the major ones being Equifax, back in 2017. And this kind of predates privacy regulations like GDPR and stuff. And there were like so many barriers that were actually surpassed. The attackers found a vulnerability on their customer complaint portal, the Apache Struts vulnerability, that allowed them to get inside the network, and because of lack of network microsegmentation, they got to the internal side of the network where all the data stores were. And they found credentials that were hard-coded in the servers, which actually gave them access to across 51 databases. So very gradually, they started to exfiltrate the data over 79 days, and just went undetected because they didn't try to take everything all at once, because that could have actually raised a spike. And of course, data was not desensitized or de-identified. They were probably merely using a data encryption at rest, but that wouldn't have mattered anyways, because the credentials that gave access to the database just got the data out transparently decrypted. And as data was being exfiltrated outside the network, the monitoring tools that were allowed to inspect the traffic to see if there's any malicious thing going on, they failed to renew a certificate. And eventually there was a whole encrypted tunnel that got undetected. So, of course, on top of these, you have social engineering, phishing attacks, which basically gives it away. And I think enterprises just need to essentially adopt that Zero Trust framework, that one, trust no one, validate and verify every single access, authenticate, re-authenticate, and only then you give the trust. And at the end of the day, adopt a very data-centric approach where you want to focus your energy on the protect surfaces rather than the attack surfaces, because there are so many of these attack surfaces that actually could get compromised. But what these attack surfaces lead to are those protect surfaces, and that's what the attackers are after. So that probably would be one of the ways to kind of combat this.
No, awesome, sir. To see, it's a very interesting point. The final note we have given, right? The attack surface management across this organization is different, but in terms of context to my department and then my work and then what are the applications I have, and that's play a very significant role. And from that, just where we can map to the respective framework, where it is the gap and then where it is moving, and then how I can detect and then prevent to achieve this in terms of the resilience. And thanks, Siddharth. Thank you so much on that. So by considering in terms of what are the input insiders as well as supply chain, and then of course where he has given the context based where we want to drive, then only this organization. I cannot take the X framework, it is apply for the Y organizations, it doesn't work at all, right? Really, I have to contextualize and then where we have to take it forward. So by considering all the things, like maybe where we are talking about the private, right? And coming back to this other side, if you want to bring down any operations, I may not require to only pull out the network. I may not require to pull out only this malicious of their network. I may not require only on the phishing, right? If I pull out the power, that's done. If I pull out the water supply, it's done, right? If you want to stop the operations, I have the same number of operations as a threat actors. So really, Dr. Pallav, really you have a wider experience on those areas, and really love to hear from your standpoint, from the state and the nation standpoint. And of course, it's a lot of new things. It's the central government is initiating, but love to hear for a national critical infrastructure. So what are the action it has been taken from the cybersecurity standpoint?
Fantastic question. So thank you, the IBP INFOCOM team, for inviting us for this panel. Some erudite speakers are here, and a fantastic question indeed. So from the national point of view, we know that there were many guidelines which were governed by the government of India in terms from NCIIPC, CERT-In, and of course CM Ministry of Power, but recently in the Stratix Committee meeting at New Delhi, which I've attended in the last week, and we come to know that they're coming up with the National Cybersecurity Reference Framework. And this framework will work all across the industry, and it will build up a proper cyber resilience in terms of priority, proportion, and concentration, which is very important for any information security department or authorities to abide as a CISO or head of information security from organization perspective. At the same time, the government has regulated the particular person who is the head of information security should not only have ability and agility, but the right attitude is required for cyber resilience with a proactive intent. And last but not the least, the National Cybersecurity Reference Framework also says, and it abides to various standards all over the world, taking into NIST guidelines, not only the cybersecurity framework, but also the NIST, the 7628 cybersecurity standard. Also the NACSIP as far as the North American standard is concerned, and the UK, European Union, we have the basic IC guideline, where Bureau of Indian Standard is working with IC. So that is the standpoint that everybody has to support from the industry as well as the academia, and then contribute in this type of reference framework.
No, amazing. I mean, I have one more follow-up question, Dr. Pallav. So you had mentioned where we have a lot of framework, but just really, I want to get it a little bit insight of how IT and then OT segregations on the power sector.
So basically, the IT-OT segregation, as per as if you go through the guidelines and the standards, it says that IT-OT should be segregated through an enterprise service bus. But I tell you, is it possible to segregate fully? You cannot. No. Because if your vice presidents or executive director or managing director or the who's who, if the chairman wants to see that what's happening in your network, you have to give an OT feed. Okay, you have to show him the dashboard of the total transmission, distribution, or generation happening in the organization. So in that respect, an IT-OT convergence is needed. Not only intersection part, but the convergence is needed through an enterprise service bus, that is true. But at the same time, we have to maintain proper cyber resilience in terms of proactive intent. Again, I am repeating, in terms of having a security incident and event management, proper SOC, and we have to also see that the OT scene, the OT tools are not directly gets connected with the IT systems, but in a segregated environment, we get all the feeds and we take the remediation or the mitigation measures as early as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Because recently we heard, right? I mean, it's a lot of threat actors. They are not targeting the computer; they are targeting on the grid.
Exactly. That is the reason you see the public-private partnership is needed. Because government may tell you that you have to abide by this regulation, this act, the DPDP here in India. So previously also IT 2003, if you go to IT 2018 Act, you will see that we had SPDI, we had sensitive personal data or information, which again transferred into PII and DPDP today. So the BFSI as well as the critical information infrastructure are the important part. But now, as the theme of INFOCOM says, that it is sustainable disruption. But disruption, yes, can be sustainable or non-sustainable, as very properly said by Bhaskar Pramanik in the very first day. That whether it is sustainable or not sustainable, that proactive intent you have to have from the organization's point of view.
Awesome. Amazing input, Dr. Pallav. See, just we heard in terms of, the government sectors as well as so very interesting questions to, because of very tough questions, I can keep it up. See, many organizations, if you take a startup or maybe enterprise, right, always our budgeting, of course, come by a CFO. And even though CEO grant, but CFO never, right, always they demand like what is the ROI, we bring it on that. So resilience need a lot of courage and then effort, right? I mean, where we have to show the value. If anything goes wrong, you may have a plan of 3x, but if anything goes wrong, you are in minus 3x. So that's the level of stuff where we have to give it to the, the organization. But some extent where we have to balance, right? What's the resilience it's happening, and then what's the preventions? Maybe some places, if we have a prevention techniques, it's absolutely fine where we can connect and then take it forward. But some places really we have to focus on, if anything goes wrong, our reputation affects, we are in the minus 3x. So where we can balance, in terms of to assure that in terms of the resilience, how we can balance and where we can balance. I'd love to hear your thought.
Thank you for the question. I will step a bit behind and then come forward to date today. This year, RSA, there were more than 483 independent security vendors, okay, who put up their base and they said, okay, we're going to sell the product. I'm also a vendor. We all are here to sell a product, right? But what's more important for organizations to see to it is, are they creating platforms? It is the platform story or the mesh architecture, what Gartner talks about, very important for every organization to prevent their investment and protect their assets. Today, I'll give you a very classic example and a very layman's example. We live in societies where it is a gated society. The security guard calls us if there is a visitor who's going to come to me, right? But unfortunately today in the IT setup, we see that the firewalls don't talk to the endpoints, right? And despite we being the most technologically advanced people, right? So this is the problem that has been identified. Every year we might have a new shiny tool saying that, okay, I can do this. I remember 2008, the ISS, IPS CEO came out with a silver bullet, saying that I have a silver bullet. You take my solution, everything is done. Life doesn't work that way, right? So to prevent all your assets, what's more important is to look at platforms. Have platforms created, have platforms share information, intel, rules, policies, and intel means the threat intel. So I feel this is the way, if we go ahead, we can prevent our investments as well as prevent our IT assets, and can make us more resilient to go forward in the days to come, because people say that even a 128-bit encryption can be beaten out, or a 256 can be beaten out with the quantum part, which is coming up soon. So yesterday Madam was talking about quantum, and if quantum computing comes up, then we will have point products destroyed in seconds. We will have to create resilience by building platforms.
Awesome, because I think you covered the yesterday quote of the quantum computing. At the same time, very interesting fact what you have covered is technology is so too dynamic, right? If you see maybe 10 years or maybe 20 years back, all the company or all the individuals where we have a 5-year plan or the minimum of 3-year plan. Now we cannot have the 5-year, 3-year plan. It's max 6 months or the 1 year. Because if you start developing and in terms of the product or maybe in terms of services, in between there is a lot of so dynamic, it's keep coming, and then it create a new supply, or maybe already the product is absolute. So that aspects really we need a lot of dynamic to understand what it is happening, specifically on the AA, like the previous presenter, what he has given, plenty of AA, right? I mean, what we were thinking, what are the movie what we are watching, it's a real shoot, but it might not be the case. Right, but it's a lot of tools coming to the pictures. It's standby for a lot of people in terms of the technologies, what they brought it, and then how it is coming to the pictures. So Partha, with that note, really just I wanted to come back on that actually. See, there is a lot of pillars in terms of specifically on the the resilience strategy. See, it's in terms of the balancing, of course, it's very much is required, but how you are going to make this pillar effective for this respective organizations. The first, love to hear like what are the pillars you feel which is required for the resilience, and second one, like how we can enforce or the implement for the respective organizations.
Great. So all of us are in our mind that what we need to do, we have to put a structure to it. First is that assess that risk assessment. We have been hearing the word risk assessment, which is used heavily in the IT industry. But I'm talking about a business risk, what application, what data, what system is extremely critical for business. This is number one. Prepare a list for that. Do an incident response planning for that. Incident response planning in view of if this system by chance for some reason goes down, how do I bring back that system? This is my incident response strategy. Number 3 is that how do I continue business at that juncture? This is my BCP strategy, which is my third strategy. Fourth component, which I wanted to, which is extremely important, is that tell and coach everybody around the organization, whatever extent possible for security awareness. You know, today morning in the morning session today, Kaushik was telling that, you know, get a supply chain guy included as a part of your cybersecurity team. And then whenever you are creating a supply chain risk management strategy, that guy becomes knowledgeable about cyber risk. They will be able to appreciate that. And the guy who is also defining the strategy and defining the control, they can work together and define a real required cybersecurity incident response strategy. That is why security awareness becomes a most critical element towards the success of this process. Next we move into tech and tools. Tech and tools, we know the very important element for this. Tech and tools, all of us knows that we need a SIM solution. Every company knows, everybody knows inside the room we need a SIM solution. So post detection, you know, if that incident has happened, if it has bypassed the system, we need to monitor that. There's one more important thing which is coming and seeing the light of the day. Very limited organization today could focus on those areas, is that creating a vault for your critical data. Create a vault for your critical data. See over there if there is a changes happening around that, on the vault. And third element is that once you are creating the vault, and focus on that it is a immutable data, so that nobody will be able to change the data, nobody will be able to alter the data. You keep the data so protected so that nobody will be able to touch that data. And don't do it for everything. Do it as a part of your risk assessment strategy. What data, what system, what application is extremely critical for you, do that. Don't forget about governance. Governance is a very key pillar for this success. And collaboration and information sharing is what you are doing, what you are not doing, why you are doing, why you are not doing. I think today to make an HR will do any organization the campaign before appraisal, before something is getting announced in the organization, before something which is good happening in the organization and all, they will send flyers, they will send communications and all, corporate communication. Use those pillars to spread awareness and communicate to everybody. Collaboration is another element for our success. Whom do we collaborate? All these communication, what I told as of now, is looking like an IT type of a collaboration. If you do not do collaboration with our legal, and we don't know what are the legal consequences going to come, if you do not collaborate with our corporate communication department in our own organization, if you do not collaborate with the finance guys within the organization, you do not know how you will be able to respond to that. And they are the best guy in their own capacity who will be able to communicate to the right people in a meaningful way. And which we certainly we lack skills on those areas and all as a part of the organization. Create more and more collaborative team in the organization in the event of this is happening. This is one of the most important pillar for our success. Last but not the least, prioritize. And you said that what are the focus, the second question part of it, what are the pillars? I have explained you the pillars. Now the second question, what it is that where to focus and how to do that. Leverage your existing resources. And it's not that we are going to get a plenty amount of budget what we are trying to do. Leverage existing resources what you have got. Then implement a phased wide plan. Do not try to do as a whole log as a part of the whole organization. Implement, and I did it and tell them the next quarter I am going to do only this portion of the job. I am trying to do so. So in the event for next 24 hours this business remains short or something happens to that business, I am going to give back that. So that they are also aware, in the business is aware, I am only doing this portion. And this is the kind of money. Once we are successful, then you go back there. You say I monitored that, I did it successfully. Do you want to increase more? Do you have more critical element in this part of your business which has become so much critical, you want to include that there? Incrementally grow, engage stakeholder, continuously communicate. This is how we will be able to get a success on those pillars.
You Awesome. I think moreover, I had this entire lesson in terms of the priority, the pillars as well as the enforcements. Maybe as a summary, I'll take, of course, we have to create this immutable, this component from end to end, and of course, with the collaborations, with the priority, and focus on what needs to be get things done. Awesome, Pata, the great input. See, we are discussing in terms of dynamics of business and dynamics of tools, what exactly you wanted to get things and what it is, the environment is moving. But now just if you see the lot of evolvement, what is happening on the AA side, and a lot of data sets and a lot of data component it is coming, how this A component will help on the resilience side. Sid, really, love to hear from you since you are from the technology background, and how we can leverage the AML for the resilience side in terms of the accuracy, in terms of predictions, so that I can ensure that not only on the preventions, maybe I can assure that how we can add value for the resiliency also. So love to hear your thought process.
Yeah, so I think AI is kind of, the whole concept of to AI or not to AI, we are past that, right? So it's just coming to terms with that situation that business, they are going to be adopting in AI into their business processes and particularly for their customer serving applications. And obviously there are, risks, even though there's enough productivity and enough value with the use of AI. One thing to remember is that as enterprises are adopting AI, the attackers are also weaponizing AI, and then probably ahead of the enterprises in a lot of cases. So we talked about the typical, attacks that, happen, and with weaponizing AI, the scale and sophistication of those attacks are essentially going to be 10x. And now you have the third, leg of that stool, which is the security solutions and the security vendors, whether it's Fortinet or any other solution. I think every solution essentially has to adopt AI and leverage the power of AI to combat AI-driven attacks. Because other than that, you are essentially bringing a knife to a gunfight. And obviously, you don't expect to win in that case. Right? So I think from a resilience perspective, AI is going to be an enabler for us to have a very real-time and continuous ability for us to detect threats, contain the attack surface, prevent the sprawl of the attack across the environment. And I think AI is an ally in a lot of cases, and it's going to be a phase where we will not talk about AI, going forward in few years, because it's going to be as ubiquitous as calling out that we use internet, to drive our IT infrastructure, right? So I think that's just going to be part and parcel and be table stakes.
Awesome, Seth. So just I have one more interesting questions for you. See now, if you see this, most of the product, what has been built or what are the technology that is coming, really the hacker play very significant role. Positively, I can say. If they are not there, we don't patch it, right? If they are not there, we don't get evolve in terms of the next level, right? So that aspects in terms of the AI also, there is a lot of predictions which is going ahead of what we think. From prevention standpoint as well as a resilience standpoint. So where the chase you think like really the AI on the threat actor side helping us to build robust resilience framework, or maybe that's going to be the disaster? Love to hear your input.
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand the mindset and the motivation, from an attacker standpoint, right? I think just to how to kind of stay ahead of the game is that you really need to understand that what they are after, what are they looking for, what are those low-hanging fruits that, they will be essentially targeting. And also when it comes to the predictions aspect of it, what are some of the patterns that we have learned and leveraging AI and ML to, predict the next step. So I think a lot of cases, these attacks and the historical data and the patterns are going to shape, our resilience. And on the other side, as we kind of started, the foundation of this session is that you will have to assume, right, that there's an attack already and kind of build those, guardrails, accordingly. And I think no longer it's going to be focused on guardrails and building walls, because the higher walls you bring in, the attackers are going to bring bigger ladders, right? So I think that the mindset has to change in terms of, what they're motivated with, and then what really is their next step, and trying to predict that next step to build those guardrails.
Awesome, awesome, and you nailed it. Thank you so much, Sid,
Thanks.
actually. And Dr. Pallab, by hearing a lot of AI, things, and then a lot of insider threats, and then of course it's a pillar of all the cyber resilience what we have it. So really, just I wanted to hear, because just you have from the IEEE concept, just you were doing the wonderful work in terms of getting the framework or in terms of getting things on the the ground side. So it's specifically I want to understand from the smart grid standpoint, what are the initiatives from the IEEE ComSoc it's happening on the ground, on the paper, and then how, as a layman, I can get the privileges from the cyber resilience standpoint. I'd love to hear your input.
Again, a good question. Well, first of all, I'd like to tell you a small story about IEEE ComSoc. So IEEE, everybody knows, is a non-profit organization. It cares for humanity. It cares for research and development. It was totally into academia. When we started the ComSoc Kolkata chapter in Kolkata, in the Eastern Zone, we had only 1 or 2 industry people into that. Okay. And in the executive committee, if you will see a lot of professors and everybody from the academia. So what we thought, and Shubham, the chairman of IEEE ComSoc right now, so both of us, we took ComSoc Kolkata chapter, all parts of the globe, to discuss, to let them know that we can bridge the gap between industry and academia through IEEE ComSoc. And how did we do it? We do it by definitely the two words, the key words from Pathoda's speech. One is data. Okay, so now we are researching on metadata, not data. Okay, artificial intelligence, AGI, or generative AI, you see data is not for analytics anymore. We are more, IEEE is working on metadata, the lateral data movement. The second part, Pathoda spoke about collaboration. So this collaboration, we are inviting the industry leaders, because in the academia part of research and development, we are not getting proper use cases. We are working on synthetic data. So if we get the real-time use cases, real-time data from the industry, if we get that data, the R&D would be going to a mammoth thing, and we can create some products which will be on the open system, because IEEE always believes on open system protocols. And as far as standardization is concerned, we think that as far as cybersecurity is concerned, we are getting informations, we are getting inputs from industry leaders, and industry leaders are joining IEEE as industry member, because previously we didn't have industry member concept. We had a concept of only IEEE regular members. Now we are having IEEE, be it Computer Society, be it ComSoc, be it EDS. So there are many IEEE members all across the country. And we have some fantastic chapters at the south, at Bengaluru, we have at Chennai, we have at Visakhapatnam. Now we are having chapters at IIT Kharagpur. We are having at Guwahati. So all across India, we are having IEEE chapters, and spatial is the industry group or the industry fraternity, which is very much required for research and development. Only academicians cannot create good research products until and unless we get good use cases, good statistics, good industry leaders who contributes in IEEE.
Absolutely, Pallab. I think we may get a lot of insights and then thought. But just I would like to have a few more following questions. See, it's a smart grid and then smart IoT or smart cities playing very significant role, right? I mean, so most of the places, specifically if you take the smart grid and cyber resilience play very significant. Just how it has been enforced on the real ground.
So I was fortunate to work on the 2 standards, one of IEEE P2784, which is a technological guide on smart grid and smart city, which would be coming within 3 to 4 months.
Awesome.
We have been working for the last 1.5 years, led by Kishore Narang, again a person from Delhi. He's a veteran for this smart city and smart grid. I've been a subgroup chairman. So what we have seen is that the cyber resilience, the cyber security part, along with the transportation, electric vehicles, what not, the manufacturing industries, the BFSI, everything has to be considered in case of this P2784. That is the IEEE standard which is coming. The second part is an IC standard, that is IS 16335. This is only in the draft mode. We have worked with Ministry of Power, Government of India, and the reciprocal standard is IC 62443, which in the reference framework, Government of India is making a mandate that all the OT infrastructures has to be audited, not only as per ISO 27019, but also IC 62443. For that is the reason Bureau of Indian Standard has come up with 16335. So in this particular arena, I think IEEE is doing a great work, as well as the industry and academia partnership that is bridging the gap. And also, last but not the least, your question on smart grid and smart city, it is going to happen because from PMO's office it has come that by 2027 all urban and rural population would have proper electricity without harmonics, quality power.
Awesome. I mean, always we hear SEBI, RBI and IRDA, right? I'd love to hear other things which is much more critical and then important for every human life, right? I mean, without money we can, but without water and power, it's very difficult on that actually. Now, by considering all the things, just where we touched in terms of a lot of technologies, in terms of critical infrastructures, of course, the AAML, and in terms of the component, who is in the race, and then how it is going to, take it forward. So really, Kasav, I wanted to get from you in terms of the final thought of the sessions, how we can prevent this supply chain attack. I mean, specifically, since you spoke about a multiple component, right? If you take any organizations, right, if you want to run the family, or if you want to get out of this, one place to one place, or maybe any business if you take, it's not like everything's not owned by them. Definitely there will be a vendor-driven, organization. Then specifically if you want to consider an IT, or maybe if anything smart stuff, if it is going digital, no doubt where we are API-driven or maybe vendor-driven. So that's why it's a lot of dependency on the vendor side, right? As a CISO, CIO, really we may not have a responsibility to protect and detect only our environment, right? Really we have a responsibility to assure that all this third-party things also taken care. So I'd love to hear from you how we can stop in terms of supply chain risk, and then what are the mechanisms we can take it up.
Well, just 2 minutes left, a longer question. But prevention 100% is not possible. And that's why this topic is there, how resilience comes into play. But for prevention, again, if we go back to the basics of 3 pillars, okay, the people, process and technology. Most of the time, the espionage of the breakage in the supply chain happens because of third party, right? And we usually do not do the third party audits in time, third party vendor audits. We had a classic case of SolarWinds. It was a supply chain attack. The bigger one than that, which was a human one, which was the WikiLeaks. A third party vendor whose background check was not done was there in Pentagon, right? So it was people. So I feel technology wise, we people do a fairly good job. Technology never fails. From the people and process, either the processes are too complex to follow, or people who are not trained are the ones which are the key point to failure. So if supply chain attacks have to be stopped, they need to be first working on zero trust for all the third parties. Every single API, every single software that comes in needs to be audited. The second thing is the trust needs to be verified. And third thing is the collaboration that needs to start happening within our teams. And that is the only way where a supply chain type of a large scale attack can be prevented. And 30 seconds left, I'm going to just put one point. I was thinking that we've had CXOs here many a times, CIO, CISO. I feel by the next time we come here again, we will have a chief cybersecurity resilience officer also. Because I feel that's something that's going to be very important. The resilience officer is something that's going to come up very soon. Yeah, so thank you.
Awesome. Just maybe I'll put this last questions to my great friends and the fellow members. Just to test the resilience, right? What are things you take care, right, in terms of the backup of your contacts or backup of the WhatsApp chat? like what best where we can do. How many of you ensure that you have a frequent backup of your contacts? Only 2, 1, 5, 6. Rest all we assume that it has been taken care. So let's break some time, in terms of the backup, it goes wrong, then how we ensure that it's a resilience, right? That's what, it's not backup, it's a resilience. How we are going to resume and then take it forward. So with the note, anyway, Madam has come, and thank you so much for the wonderful insights and, thought, and as well as the experience, what you have gone through that, which will be the value additions for me as well as, for the other take later. Thanks a lot again, and looking forward to more collaborations.
Thank you very much to our moderator and chairperson. And our speakers, may I request Mr. K.K. Mahapatra to kindly come forward and do the honors. Mr. K.K. Mahapatra is the head INFOCOM. We would like to thank you, Mr. Kaustav Deshmukh. Thank you very much, sir, for your time and all the information you have shared with us. Mr. Siddhartha, thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Partha Sengupta. Thank you, sir, for your invaluable knowledge sharing. Thank you, Dr. Pallav Ganguly. Thank you, sir, for your time and your speech. And thank you, Chairperson and Moderator, Mr. Navanithan M. Thank you, sir. If you could just step forward for the picture. Thank you.